Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new episode of our F1 2021 My Driver Career Mode. Back at it today for one of my favorite tracks on the schedule here in Baku for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Very excited for this one. Now, this is the first time I was playing the game after the latest patch with the new handling changes and whatnot, as well as Portimao has been added to the game. Made a few laps around there recently. Really enjoyed it. I have quite a bit of experience there already from Project Cars 2 from quite a few years ago. So, excited for that next season in the career mode now, as we can't actually get it yet. So I cannot wait to get to that point where we can have Portimao. But here in Azerbaijan, we also had the R&D get switched around with the patch, and that's very unfortunate because all of this work we've done to get Aston Martin a little bit better has kind of been washed, and now Aston Martin is the fourth worst team on the grid. Red Bull is now the best team, shocker there, over Mercedes. So that was an unfortunate start to the episode. I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. We got to do all this work again to get Aston Martin higher up. We've had a great start to the season with top 10s in every race in Bahrain, as well as China and Monaco. I still think, though, we can be quite competitive with this car, even when it's fourth worst on the grid, as it's actually not that far off of the teams in front of us, like Ferrari, as well as AlphaTauri and whatnot. So it's not like it's the end of the world. Now, one thing I didn't know that was going to happen here is after I updated the game, all of the livery mods that I have previously put in the game actually got set back to their original livery. So Red Bull has an original livery, so does Haas, as well as Alfa Romeo. So that's only going to be for this episode only. Back into the next episode, it will be back to normal with the Red Bull BMW livery, the black and red Alfa Romeo livery, as well as the Castrol Haas livery. Now, what was weird is it didn't reset like the pit crew shirts and their fire suits and whatnot, so they all still have their proper stuff. It's just the liveries that are not correct. So after this episode, it will be corrected for the next one at my home GP in the Canadian race. So I'm very excited for the Canadian GP, of course. Hopefully we can go to home and have a good one. But first up, we have this one right here, the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Definitely a top 3 track for me on the schedule. I just love this track so much. I am always excited to get to this point, and I'm so glad it's early in the season as well. So we were doing our race strategy programs where our 3 laps were all above the delta time, so we were looking really good. We ended up P13 here in FP1. So then we came through into FP3 and decided, you know what, we're going to try our best to get the best lap we can here on the soft tire. We had a bit of a pull from Callum Ilott there in the Alfa Romeo there with the slipstream, and we crossed the line to get a very strong lap of P3 against our teammate of Sebastian Vettel. We had about half a second actually on him as Ilott was down there in last place, but this would lead us into qualifying here for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. And the goal, I didn't really know what it should be. This is really a kind of a learning session for us with the new R&D changes with the new patch. I didn't really know where our car is going to truly stack up. So we were about to find out exactly that. There wasn't no qualifying pace program in practice, so I never got to actually see what the goal for the team is. So I'm just really kind of baselining it off of where Sebastian Vettel is, and my first attempt at a lap here was actually right at the end of the first qualifying session. So I waited really long because I wanted to put my back kind of against the wall and only have to use one set of soft tires so I could save 2 for that second qualifying session. So my first lap, it was pretty actually competitive. It could have been better. There was some mistakes here and there, but nonetheless, I come through to cross the line in 14th place, just shy of 13th of our teammate of Vettel, and that would be enough to get us through into the second qualifying session. So Vettel had about 4/10 actually of a second on myself. So clearly some work to do once again all weekend long. Pretty much Sebastian was outpacing me just like the first 3 weekends of the season. But if the trends continue, we should probably be able to beat Vettel in the race, I would think. But we had to make 2 attempts in Q2 here. So my first qualifying lap was P14, and obviously I said, you know what, might as well go for another one here since we have one more set of tires. Once again, 1 spot shy of Sebastian Vettel. So we look like we're right around where we need to be here. And I definitely improved my lap time this time around. We were 2/10 and then up to half a second to the good compared to our last lap as we were pulling Lando Norris along with us. But we ended up out qualifying Sebastian Vettel there as we will start P12 for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton, your top 2, and Lando Norris rounds out the top 3 as Giovinazzi at the back of the grid as we get ready to go green here from the Baku City
Good afternoon
circuit.
and welcome to Baku. This was the arena, if you think back to 2017, of one of the most eventful races of modern history, with controversy behind the safety car, last second overtakes, and a historic podium for Williams and for Lance Stroll. So let's find out what lies in store for us this year. It's time for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. The Baku city circuit measures roughly 6 kilometers and is made up of 20 corners and 2 DRS zones. The circuit winds around the narrow city, through the old town, and even brushes against the city's medieval walls. However, as beautiful as the setting is, this track is also a ferocious technical challenge, where the smallest of mistakes could lead to catastrophic consequences for all of our drivers. It's race day yet again, and joining me for a chat, Anthony Davidson. And our racers are certainly in for a rough day today. What will you be watching for as they go down into turn 1?
Well, the start of the race is always one of the most nerve-wracking parts. You have to hope that everyone is able to get off to a clean start, and this is possibly the trickiest part of the entire race. So many drivers in such a small space, and finding your braking point into turn 1 as well. It's a testament to the driver's skill that there aren't more incidents.
It's time to take a look at our starting grid for today's race. Max Verstappen put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he starts from pole position. Sergio Perez lines up alongside. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Norris, Ricciardo, Lewis Hamilton and Leclerc, Gasly, Sainz, the rookie and Valtteri Bottas. They've taken a grid penalty. Ocon, Vettel, Antonio Giovinazzi and Latifi, Ireland, Stroll, and Guan Yu Zhou and Mick Schumacher. Tsunoda, they'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. And George Russell ends our grid lineup. It's almost time for the lights to go out, so let's head down to the track and get this Grand Prix underway.
You saw the starting grid, some grid penalties handed out to some drivers. That puts us up here in 9th place for the start of this GP. Valtteri Bottas down there in the 10th spot here as we get underway for this formation lap. Our starts have been a lot better this season compared to last, and I'm hopeful that with this short run down towards turns 1, we can keep that up here now as we get to the grid and ready to go lights out here in Azerbaijan. Up front, it's going to be all of Red Bull. Lewis Hamilton there in 5th place. We've got McLaren 3rd and 4th there, ready to attack on Red Bull down this long back straightaway here, as it's going to be 5 red lights and we're ready to go. Green as it's lights out. We are underway. Max Verstappen, Perez already side by side down towards turns 1. Which one though is it going to be coming out on top? Still side by side, wheel to wheel, but it's not enough from Perez. Verstappen holds on to the point there in P1 as he leads away through turns 2 as Perez settles into that 2nd position. McLaren's Daniel Ricciardo side by side with Mercedes Lewis Hamilton down this back straightaway, and Ricciardo fades in behind Hamilton, who now moves up into the 4th spot. But overall, a pretty tame, clean start here in Azerbaijan now, as I myself as well had a pretty clean start. I did actually end up losing 1 position because Bottas actually had a lightning start. We'll go over the start that he had as well as myself here in just a few moments time at the end of this first and opening lap. But it's Verstappen, Perez, Norris, your top 3, and Lando actually won his first Formula 1 GP at this very race last season in our My Driver career mode, and he's definitely got that straight line speed, setting him up to potentially pull that off once again here today now as we ride on board with the AlphaTauri of Pierre Gasly there for a brief moment. Bottas behind there a little bit because of his grid penalty, so he's got some work to do today. And one of my favorite things about these R&D changes with this new patch is it's going to make it a little bit more challenging for Mercedes. It was already looking like a potential runaway for them again. Obviously, Verstappen won the Monaco GP in the last episode, and then Perez was 2nd, but this is finally where we're seeing Red Bull legitimately be the best team. So it's really going to tighten up this championship battle, I think, and I'm hopeful that McLaren can put the fight to them as well and just add on to the intensity of this championship battle now. As we held on at the end of this first lap for that 10th spot, Ocon was right there behind me on my gearbox, but didn't quite have enough for me. Here's a POV of my start. So we got a way better start there than the Ferrari now, but Bottas would actually take it 3 wide with Leclerc and myself here as we came through out of turns 1, and Bottas gained 2 for 1 in one corner. Just a straight up lightning start from Valtteri now, as we're going to get a view, of course, from his perspective of that start, as Ocon as well trying to make a pass on me here, but you can see how much better he was right here on the start and just sails it up the inside there into the corner. And sorry, that was Carlos Sainz, not Leclerc there in the Ferrari. So it was overall a clean start. It was aggressive. I didn't want to be 3 wide going down into turn 1 and out of turn 1, but we made it work, and we would continue on our way. We only lost 1 spot over there on the Mercedes, but then as we came through to the start of lap 3, DRS enabled, of course. We were starting to lose some contact with Carlos Sainz, but now already early on in the second season of the career mode at a track like Azerbaijan, Monza, it's just going to turn into a DRS slipstream fest. And if you can just remain within DRS range by the time it gets enabled, you're pretty much guaranteed to remain with the field and have a chance to have a good finish. And that's exactly what would happen. We were in this train here behind Valtteri, as well as Pierre Gasly, Carlos Sainz, and then the rest of the drivers up ahead were already long gone. But now, at the end of lap 5, the leader of Max Verstappen is going to come into the pit lane for his first pit stop on the day, as he's actually going to bring in a train of Lewis Hamilton, Daniel Ricciardo, as well as I believe Charles Leclerc is coming in as well. And as this was happening, I have a huge run on Valtteri Bottas, and we're going to make a pass on him going down into turns 1. That's my favorite thing about this little slipstream fest here with the DRS, is I'm able to make moves like that on a driver that I shouldn't be able to pass. But now on lap 6, Lewis Hamilton, after he had made his pit stop, actually got some wing damage there after some contact with the Alpine. So that was a big moment for him. He had to come in and replace his wing. Sebastian Vettel had pitted, and then there was more chaos going on. Lance Stroll had wrecked himself after trying to make a pass on a Ferrari, and he lost his front wing. This time, that would bring out a safety car. So here I am coming around at the end of lap 6, coming into the pit lane at the perfect time, and sometimes just staying out a little bit longer always pays out for you. And that's the second time that's happened for us this season. It worked in China, and now it works again because we're going to get a nice improvement on position, and we're going to overtake Lewis Hamilton, of course, and a few more drivers at the same time, just because of the timing of the safety car was pretty much perfect. We were on the front straightaway coming to the pit lane when that safety car came out, so we just barely got out in front of Pierre Gasly, and we're already in 7th place. So really good timing. Everything worked out so well right there, and now we were getting ready to go back green flag racing. Not even halfway through this Grand Prix yet. At the end of lap 9, we would get back underway here. ERS into overtake. I got to be really careful today to not drain that battery using overtake down the front straightaway, down that back straightaway here out of turns 2, but we were right on the back of Charles Leclerc, right on his gearbox. Couldn't quite do anything right there. Wanted to make sure we just kept it clean at this point now. As I saw those red proximity arrows come up there from Gasly, it looks like he's actually been passed by the Alpine of Esteban Ocon now, as he's going to have it to hold off Bottas as well as Lewis Hamilton. At the end of lap 10, actually, Perez would come into the pit lane. So the Red Bull driver comes in just 1 lap or so after the safety car comes in. So an interesting call right there. It'll be interesting to see as well if it's going to quite work out in his favor. He just sacrificed a potential podium for, I don't know what strategy he's currently on, but we'll have to wait and see what happens right there. Now, unfortunately, we come through to lap 13. Overcast conditions kind of covering the track now at this point. The clouds have moved in. I saw the rain chance had increased around this point, but it never did start raining, thankfully. But we had lost a lot of time to the drivers in front of us. I don't know what it was, but this set of medium tires, I just didn't have the pace in the car on this second run. So I was really, really struggling, and I was under attack from Esteban Ocon, and I was draining my ERS battery, so it put us in an awkward position as Gasly comes in into the pit lane, as well as Charles Leclerc has come in as well. But I just couldn't risk draining my battery as much as I was, so I kind of had to sacrifice the spot there to Esteban. I did put up that fight still with the ERS and overtake, and right here we're gonna get DRS, but I knew that as soon as I get past him, he's gonna be able to just pass me again down the front straightaway, and I just didn't see a need to do it, so I just kind of stayed behind him. Bottas back into the mix behind us there in the Mercedes, so we were about to be under attack from him, but we're now kind of in that little slipstream fest. There's only 3 cars, but we still kind of had that going on, so I felt like we were going to be relatively okay. But at the end of the lap, we actually decided to come into the pit lane following Esteban, so now we're going to come in and put on another set of mediums. Cannot do a set of softs because we don't have a brand new set of soft tires. I don't think anybody does remaining at this point, so we come in and put on that second set of medium tires. A great stop, and we're actually going to overtake Ocon in the pit lane. So we got passed by him, but we passed him back there with a great stop from the team. 2.7 seconds, a tremendous stop actually from the team. That might be the best one I've seen so far in for myself in the F1 My Driver career mode now, as we're gonna have to hold on over Ocon though. Now, as I know, less than 10 laps to go, or actually there is 10 laps to go in this race. We got to fight as hard as we can against that Alpine now, as he's gonna maybe make a lunge there up the left hand side of the turn 3, but I am not gonna back down without a fight here as we hold our position and we hold on to that 11th spot here over Esteban Ocon in the Alpine. But now as we came through down the front straightaway, once again, you see my overtake was at 16%. I knew I couldn't drain my battery. I had to let him go. We passed Ricardo on the pit lane, Russell as well in the Alpine, back up into the top 10 here in the final 10 laps of this GP. And here comes Valtteri Bottas, who actually posed the overcut on myself. He's going to be side-by-side contact with Esteban Ocon here as they exit turns 2. I'm not sure if any of them got wing damage. We do run simulation damage, so I wouldn't be surprised if one of them, specifically Ocon, picked up a little bit of wing damage here as he's going to go protective to the left-hand side. I'm going to go around the right-hand side, and we're going to pass him again, as it definitely seems like there might be something going on with the Alpine as we move up into the 9th spot. So now we would actually lose connection with Valtteri as we pass Lewis Hamilton, who's having a miserable day here in the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. But look at this. We would actually be able to stay within DRS range, thankfully, of Valtteri here as we get a quick race update here of what's going on. But we were also now in the mix with the 2 Ferraris of Leclerc and Sainz and Gasly. And all of a sudden, I realized that if we can stick with them, we might have a slim chance of getting a podium because Perez, again, has come into the pit lane. So he's down to P10 with just 7 laps to go in the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. As you see, our teammate of Sebastian Vettel there under attack from Lance Stroll. He is having a miserable day. Sebastian had more pace than us all the way up to Q3, and then it's like something just kind of clicked, and we've been on it since then. So I think this is the first time we've legitimately outpaced Sebastian in Monaco. I felt like he had more pace than us. It's just with how hard it is to pass, our strategy kind of put him off, and it gave the advantage to myself. And you can see right here, he's once again under attack from Lance Stroll. There was a little bit of contact right there, but Sebastian stays ahead. Hamilton down in 18th place as well, by the way. Callum Ilott and Mick Schumacher round out the grid there in 19th and 20th places. Lando Norris leads the way in the final few laps of this GP. Now, as we came through to the end of lap 22, Nicholas Latifi retires from the session due to an engine failure. So we continue on our way now as Bottas and Charles Leclerc are in one heck of a scrap here for that 5th and 6th position. And now, well, here I am in the mix, and Perez was already up in 8th place, just a second and a half behind me with 3 laps to go in this GP now. So I knew it was about to become a 4-car fight here, as now we have the DRS, and we're going to take a risk here, and we're going to take a 3 wide to the outside of Leclerc and Bottas. A huge run now as they were too busy fighting each other. Bottas tries to send it up the inside into turn 3, but no, we move up into the 5th position here, 2 for 1 down the back straightaway. What a move that was. It was aggressive, and we made it work. Then at the end of lap 25, coming to the final lap of the GP, Bottas actually gets an engine failure or something, a mechanical failure at least. Leclerc, by the way, had to pit after he had made contact with Bottas in turn 2 that you saw setting up for a 3 wide move. So Bottas now out on the final lap, and then we were now under pressure from Sergio Perez as we're running in 5th place on this final lap of the GP. There wasn't really any big crashes today, but it's been still a crazy GP, probably the craziest one of the season, with the action-packed racing from lap 1 to now lap 26. Lando Norris still leading on the final lap of the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. He won here last year. He will go back-to-back in Azerbaijan, win again for the first time this season, holding off Verstappen in second. Carlos Sainz will round out the podium here as we try to hold off Perez down this long, sweeping front straightaway. Now he's right to our gearbox. He can make a move at any point in time now as we have overtake on. Now as we actually lose the car through the final bend, we go spinning into the barrier. There goes Tsunoda by us. Now Perez had to check up. I get it spun around as Ocon was able to get by as well, and now we're trying to get back up to speed. But here comes Giovinazzi in the Williams, George Russell in the Alpine, and Lewis Hamilton goes by for 10th place, and we give up our points finish. And for the first time this season, after a huge shunt on the final lap, we will get a non-points finish as we cross the line 11th and the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. What in the world just happened here on the final lap of this race? A huge change of events for us, to say the least, as Yuki Tsunoda ends up driver of the day, as we have some post-race celebrations here for Lando Norris and Team McLaren.
And so ends another Azerbaijan Grand Prix, a fascinating race and a well-deserved victory. What do you think it was, Ant, that gave them the edge over the competition today?
Without a doubt, the safety car changed everything today. The key to their success was keeping calm and reacting to the situation quickly. We've seen teams in the past throw away wins because they were too hesitant, but here they were decisive, and that's allowed them to take the advantage.
As the winners make their way up to the podium, one can only imagine the celebrations that will take place at McLaren tonight. Congratulations to everyone on the team, securing the win and proving they're a force to be reckoned with out on the track. So let's review the updated...
There you see the finishing order on your screen. What a GP it was here now. Our teammate of Sebastian Vettel in 14th place. We were on track for a potential 5th, 6th place finish, and in that last little sweeping right-hander, I had gone through there all day with the overtake mode on, but for that one there in specific, you saw I took a bit of a different line, and that was just because I was paying too much attention to Perez. I wasn't trying to be defensive over him. I was just paying too much attention to him, not thinking about the next corner ahead, and I just turned in too hard for the weird apex I was taking, or the weird line I was taking into the apex, and unfortunately I just lost the car, went around, and I could not save it, which was really unfortunate. So we end up giving up points there. But you know what? Overall, we had good pace today in Azerbaijan, so you got to think about the positives there. In the next one, we go to my home race of the Canadian GP in Montreal. Very excited to get there. Hopefully, we can get a points finish, so we'll have to wait and see how that one goes. As you see, the point standings on your screen. So Verstappen now is the points leader, over 6 points over Lewis Hamilton. Bottas there in 3rd, Perez 4th. We got Pierre Gasly having a great season so far in 5th place, as we are 10th in the driver's standings now. So unfortunate that we dropped down a little bit, but that's surprisingly 11th place is our worst finish so far this season. So I'm pretty happy to say that at the same time. So if you guys enjoyed, obviously you know what to do. I'd like to thank you all for taking the time out of your day to watch this episode. I really do appreciate it now, as I'm looking forward so much to Canada. Hopefully we can get some points there. Last time out in our rookie season, we were 15th. So hopefully a 10th place finish or better in Canada. So I will see you guys all in the next one. Have a great day, everybody.